Hello, fiends, friends, and familiars. This is Matt Orozco here from Macabre Daily, and I'm joined today by Casper Kelly, who is the director and co-writer of the upcoming film Buddy. He's also an absolute legend in the terms of animation, comedy, and also genre, putting together one of our favorite segments from a VHS anthology ever with Fun Size last year. So, Casper, thank you so much for spending some time with me.
Hi, Matt. It's great to be here, and thanks for the love for VHS Halloween. That was a huge thrill to be a part of that
Uh,
incredible
I,
franchise.
Well, you put an amazing story forward, and I'm a big fan of yours going all the way back to the Aqua Teen Hunger Force days. So I'm just really excited to be able to have this conversation with you. But
Awesome.
my first question for you is what character hurt you so much as a child that you felt the need to create Buddy? And then I'm being a little bit facetious here, but more just kind of what is it about childhood that draws you that inspired you so much to create something like Buddy?
Matt, I wish I had a satisfying answer to that. I swear I love my parents and I'm very close with them, and I don't know where it comes from. And maybe it's some repressed memory. I don't know. And maybe I'm just was a weird kid and it just continued. But yeah, it does seem to be a recurring pattern. In fact, my Adult Swim, my boss at Adult Swim, Michael Oline, who did Harvey Birdman, among other things, is continually baffled that I'm doing horror at all because he doesn't think I have any horror aspect to me. But I love it. I just love it. And I love dark movies. That's definitely the type of movie I prefer to watch. But it can have humor in it too. But I like it. Like Obsession has humor, and our Weapons has humor and horror. And I love that.
Yeah, my theater erupted in laughter at the end of Weapons, and it was so well placed. But horror and comedy end up are kind of opposite ends of the same spectrum, which is that they're almost extremes of each other, where being really scared is almost the opposite of being bowled over in laughter. So I think that there's a lot of adjacency in horror and comedy that lends itself to each other. I mean, Zach Kreger came from a comedy background. You're coming from a comedy background. I think this all makes sense. And
Jordan Peele,
Jordan Peele.
Curry Barker as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think there is something to be said that maybe comedians are far more horrific than they let on. But there's also kind of this is part of like a broader kind of trend we're seeing, and I think it's one of those things. It's like when Docky's Peak came out at the same time as Volcano. It's like they weren't made at the same time intentionally, but just happens to be. Where we're seeing movies like Mr. Crockett, Monkeys Go Around, and now we have things like Buddy, which are really tapping into that kinder trauma. And so I'm curious to think kind of what do you think maybe explains that focus right now on these nostalgia based horror movies?
Oh man, that is a great question, and I don't know if I have a great theory about it, but it is very interesting, like how different eras, like in the 50s, there was a lot of alien invasion
Right.
movies, and that was about really fear of uh, the the Cold War and Russian invasion. So in terms of now, that's a good question, and I don't know if I have a good answer. I think maybe in some way our culture or in politics has gotten infantilized in a way. Like I don't know the way I don't know. I don't have a great answer. Do you have a theory, by the way?
I don't know if I have a strong theory. I think it more is just that the people that are making movies nowadays are grew up with these kinds of things like Mr. Rogers as the default,
Yes.
Barney, so it's almost like when we're tapping the well of creativity, it's easy to go back to these things that in hindsight almost feel kind of weird. Like, the fact that a giant purple dinosaur was hanging out with kids, it's like it makes sense as a kid, but as an adult, you're like, wait a minute. Um, what is the reason for this? How did this happen? And I think that that's the logical brain that as adults keeps us from having the most fun as kids do.
Well, one component also might be we're doing a reckoning with certain beloved childhood actors or figures or that recent documentary about the Nickelodeon show
Yeah.
that things weren't as rosy as it might have seemed. So there is something now about a facade that seems perfect and something sinister underneath. So that could be a component of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that academics will probably study in 10 years when they look back on this moment. But as we're living through it, it feels really exciting because I think this is the kind of stuff like practical effects, kind of really analog focus, but also, almost pushing it back against the AI side of creativity right now. And I wanted to ask you about the practical effects because you're working with a lot of stuff in this movie that feels like it requires almost extra time and effort to get right. All the costumes, especially the train and what happens to the train. It's all this stuff is part of making this feel tactile and real. And I'm curious, what was it like for you to work with so many practical effects in an era when there's this big push to do things as digitally as possible?
It was a joy. It was a lot of work and a lot of stress, and a lot of the practical things they would say, okay, you get one shot at this because
Right.
especially if there's blood flying, like, by the time we clean off this blood, we're going to have to be in the next scene. So
It's
you're
the
going to get
day.
one shot of that. And I'll say, well, can I at least get a second camera, please? But there's something, yeah, I love practical real effects because it's always surprising, and um digital effects just aren't quite there yet. You can tell even in an expensive movie like Mar I mean,
Yeah.
that's not literally true. I'm sure there are times where it's done so well I can't tell, but a lot of times you can tell even in a big budget movie.
Totally. I think it's more like this kind of the augmentation is harder to pick up, but it's more like when a character is entirely CG,
Yes.
it's very hard for that to be presented as totally real. And, my last question for you, Casper, is a bit of a fun one. But if you were asked to pair Buddy with, like they said, we're letting you program a double feature, Buddy's one of the movies, what do you think would make a fun film? Or just what film would you like to program alongside of it?
Uh, you know what I'm going to say is The Shining, because they're both about authority figures that have a bad side and a pathetic side and a scary side. But on the other hand, you sort of empathize with them the tiniest bit as well. And yeah, so I'll put it with The Shining.
I'm just now having this vision of Buddy saying, "Here's Buddy," as he cracks an axe through a door, and Shelley Duvall, rest in peace, is on the other side. But
I need to put that in the sequel. Yes.
no, that's the poster, right? That's the next poster. It's the alternative poster there. But Casper, I know I'm up on my time, but I just want to say thank you so much for being here, and first of all for this film, and also want to remind everyone watching this that you can go see Buddy in theaters, which you should, August 28th. It's absolute joy and absolute blast, and I cannot wait to release our review next week. So thank you so much, Casper.
Oh, it's been a joy to talk with you.
Thank you, and
Thank
thank
you.
you so much, Kristen.